It was a cold evening when something small, almost invisible, changed several lives forever. A man walked into a quiet restaurant after a long day of work. He was tired, hungry, and just wanted a simple meal before heading home. But across the room, he noticed a family sitting silently at a corner table: a mother, a father, and two young kids. They weren't talking much. The children stared at the menu with hopeful eyes, while the parents exchanged worried looks. What happened next seemed like a simple act of kindness, but the ending, no one in that restaurant could have predicted. Before we continue, take a moment to support stories that remind us how powerful kindness can be. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Welcome to Kindness Story Hub, where real moments of compassion inspire the world. And now, let's begin the story. Michael Carter had spent most of his life believing that small acts of kindness mattered. He wasn't rich. In fact, he worked long hours as a mechanic in a small auto repair shop in Ohio. His hands were always stained with grease, and by the end of each day, his back ached from bending over engines and tools. But Michael had something many people lacked: a soft heart. His mother had raised him alone and often reminded him, "You never know what someone else is going through. If you can help, you should." That lesson stayed with him. One Thursday evening, after finishing a particularly exhausting shift, Michael decided to stop by a small family restaurant near his apartment. It wasn't fancy, just warm lights, wooden tables, and the comforting smell of homemade food. He sat down, ordered a burger and coffee, and tried to relax. That's when he noticed the family. At the table across the room sat a young couple with two children, maybe 6 and 8 years old. Their clothes were clean but worn. The father looked tired, like he hadn't slept much lately. The mother kept smiling gently at the kids, even though worry filled her eyes. The children were studying the menu carefully. "Mom, can I get the pancakes?" the younger girl asked softly. The mother hesitated for a moment before answering, "Let's see what we can share, sweetheart." Michael noticed the father quietly checking his wallet under the table. He counted the bills, then sighed. It was the kind of sigh that told a whole story without saying a word. Michael looked back at his plate, but he couldn't stop thinking about them. But he had seen that look before. His mother had worn that same expression years ago when money was tight and she didn't know how she would afford groceries. The waiter soon arrived at the family's table. They ordered carefully. One meal for the parents, 2 small items for the kids, and a glass of water for everyone. Nothing extra, nothing special, just enough. Michael felt a small ache in his chest. He finished his meal quietly, thinking about what he could do. When the waiter came to bring the bill, Michael made a simple request. "Hey," he said softly, handing over his card. "Can you add that family's meal to my check too? The one by the window." The waiter looked surprised. "Are you sure?" Michael nodded. "Yeah. Just, don't tell them it was me." The waiter smiled warmly. "That's really kind of you." Michael shrugged. "It's nothing." But to that family, it was everything. A few minutes later, the waiter walked to the family's table. "Good news tonight," he said with a grin. "Your meal has already been taken care of." The parents looked confused. "What do you mean?" the father asked. "Someone in the restaurant wanted to help out," the waiter replied. The mother covered her mouth in disbelief. "Are you serious?" The kids' faces lit up instantly. "Does that mean we can get dessert?" the little boy asked excitedly. The parents laughed, the kind of laugh that comes from pure relief. "Yes," the father said softly. "I guess we can." Michael watched quietly from his seat, pretending not to notice their reaction, but inside, his heart felt lighter. Helping someone, even in a small way, always did that. After paying the bill, Michael put on his jacket and headed toward the door. As he walked out into the cold night air, he didn't expect anything in return, not a thank you, not recognition. He simply went home. Life continued. Days turned into weeks. Michael kept working at the repair shop, fixing cars, changing oil, and helping customers who couldn't afford expensive repairs whenever he could. Then one afternoon, something unusual happened. A shiny black SUV pulled into the parking lot outside the shop. It looked far more expensive than the typical cars Michael worked on. A well-dressed man stepped out and walked inside. "Excuse me," the man said politely. Are you Michael Carter? Michael looked up from under the hood of a car. Yeah, that's me. The man smiled. I've been hoping to find you. Michael wiped his hands with a rag, confused. Do I know you? The man shook his head. Not exactly. But you helped my family. Michael frowned, trying to remember. The man continued. A few weeks ago, at a restaurant downtown, you paid for our meal. Suddenly, Michael recognized him, the tired father from the corner table, but he looked different now, confident, relaxed. Michael chuckled awkwardly. Oh, that. It was nothing. But the man shook his head firmly. No. It wasn't nothing. He paused before explaining. You see, that night was one of the hardest nights of my life. I had just lost my job earlier that day. I didn't know how I was going to tell my kids that we couldn't afford dinner out anymore. He looked down for a moment, remembering, when the waiter told us someone had paid for our meal, it felt like the world was reminding me that things might be okay. Michael listened quietly as the man continued. That small act gave me hope. The next morning, I kept pushing. I applied for jobs again, made calls, and refused to give up. He smiled, and 3 days later, I got hired. Michael felt a warm smile forming. That's great. I'm really glad things worked out. But the man wasn't finished. My name is Daniel Brooks, he said. I'm the new regional manager for a construction company that just opened a branch here. Michael nodded politely. That's impressive. Daniel looked around the repair shop, and we're looking for someone reliable to manage maintenance for our entire company vehicle fleet. Michael blinked in surprise. That's a lot of vehicles. Daniel smiled. Exactly. And after asking around town about trustworthy mechanics, your name kept coming up. Michael was stunned. Wait, are you saying? Daniel extended his hand. I'm offering you the job. The position came with a much higher salary, benefits, and the opportunity to lead a team of mechanics, all because of a simple dinner. Michael shook Daniel's hand slowly, still processing what was happening. I don't know what to say. Daniel smiled warmly. Say yes. They both laughed, but before leaving, Daniel added something Michael would never forget. You paid for one meal, he said. But you gave my family something far more valuable, hope. Michael watched the SUV drive away later that afternoon, realizing how strange and beautiful life could be as sometimes, the smallest acts travel farther than we imagined. A simple gesture, a quiet kindness, a moment of compassion, they ripple outward, touching lives we may never fully see. Michael didn't help that family because he expected a reward. He helped because kindness was the right thing to do, and somehow, the world found a way to pass that kindness forward. So the next time you see someone struggling, the next time you have a chance to help, remember this story, because one small act of kindness might not just change someone's day, it might change someone's life, and maybe, just maybe, it will come back to you in ways you never expected. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Kindness Story Hub, and share this story with someone who believes in the power of kindness. Because the world can always use a little more of it.